Okay, hello to all live pharma coalition, LPC audience, viewers, and LPC-77 global leadership speaker and the panelist as well as moderator. As you may know, every week Sunday at 11 a.m. IST is the fixed time for the weekly LPC online pharma discussion session. This LPC weekly online pharma discussion session is for the all pharmaceutical, life sciences, and healthcare industry people from the all departments and sub departments across the globe. Also, the LPC has started its commercial arm, that is the LPC mentor program as well as LPC master program for the LPC registered member to have a customized learning and sharing platform every month. That is the third Sunday at 5 p.m. IST. So as a last two and the third also, it has been like the done. So first, second, and third LPC mentor program, it has been done to fulfill your need of the customized learning and sharing on the skill required in the pharmaceutical, life sciences, and healthcare industry. So this LPC mentor program fourth will be on next Sunday at 5 p.m. as per the Indian Standard Time. Before we start the LPC 77 global leadership session, I would like to just share a past, current, and the future planning about the numbers of the LPC and what is it exactly the aim, objective, visions for the pharmaceutical, life sciences, and industry across the globe. So here I will just like to take it to share my screen for rather for some few minutes. Hope it will be visible to all of you, and it must be there on full screen made, right? So India's largest online pharma discussion platform, currently the Live Pharma Coalition, short way we call it the LPC. It's from day one, it's very clear about it, learning and sharing forum, and in the future also it will remain the same. LPC today is every day, week, month, it's becoming the larger and larger with the help of the now currently the 80 plus pharmaceutical companies and institutions. They are like the gather with us 180 speakers, moderator and panelist group are there into a WhatsApp, and 2,000 people reach. It gets it on monthly basis on Facebook and YouTube, both together. By the benefit to a speaker as well as to audience and the live viewers and offline viewer too. Every week, different leadership, the pharma discussions for the different audience and viewers, it started happening. Here today we are here for the LPC week 2. It's a global leadership where all the international marketing people, they comes and they share their own experience. First week is dedicated for the LPC leadership team. Week 2 is for the young leadership, where the marketing and the product management team, they comes and they share their experience. Week 4 is for the academic, where all the principal professor from the colleges of the pharmaceutical industry comes and they share their experience. Week 5 is for the women leadership. So this is what about the like the all 360-degree of the learning that everyone is getting it. That had become the now the world largest the online pharma discussions forum for LPC. As you maybe know about the LPC journey, is began from the learning and sharing on May 2020 with my college mates, seniors, and the junior from pharma industry. 3 joint executives subsequently, immediately they have joined, Mr. Ashwan Mishra, Mr. Aisha Sora, and Mr. Ronald Aswani, and subsequently as a new joint executive that also from this month onwards, it has been like the Mr. Hitesh Suprati, he has connected and joined as a LPC executive now to be taking the LPC onto a very smooth way weekly that can be run for the throughout the year. Not only this, the 4 people they will have as an executive playing a great role, but executive members for the weekly session, they takes care of it this every session by bringing the best of best industry talents to connect weekly pharma discussions. Now we are here. That is the LPC Global Leadership Session. Here the executive members, it has been like the led by Praveen, along with the Praveen, Mr. Hitesh Uprati, Mr. Saurabh Srivastava, and Mr. Rajesh Srivastava. Preeti Madam equally, she will have like the contribution into LPC global team along with the LPC leadership team. She will be having the responsibility of the 5th week if it is come in that month. Now again, world largest in the form of the 20,000 the people reach that we will have on the Facebook for all the 4 to 5 videos of the 5 week. 5,000 will be Facebook engagement people, those who watch and learn from all the videos. 2000 will be a subscriber on the YouTube, and those who viewed and subscribe our channel. Now the first, second, thirds, just to be making the clarity onto all the LPC sessions. The first LPC, that is today, we are here on the every week online pharma discussions for the all for every Sunday at the 11 a.m. as per the Indian Standard Times. The second, the LPC, that is the mentor and the master program. It's only for the LPC registered member on every month, third and the first week of Sunday at 5 p.m. IST. Third LPC is the collaborations with all the companies, institutions, and the consultancies, agencies for the weekly session support as well as the LPC registrations. This can be help us. So if anyone has to be wanted to be LPC registered member, kindly text onto 9769681520. These are the three sessions. It has been happened for the LPC mentor program, and we always thank to our the live audience of the last week, that is the LPC-77 leadership team, where we got the good response. The 70 and the fifth, the live audience, it has been like on the higher side of the 70 plus the 134 was the highest people, those who has connected with us. Thank you so much to all the live audience, those who were there, and the last week as well as the last week. Coming to LPC-77, that is the global leadership, where the very nice topic that it will have the GCC so far near, and it will wow. So this topic will be elaborated by all the three eminent panelists today. As making the great panelist role, to be bring all our three speakers into a conversation forms, we'll have a first panelist, Mr. Praveen Pandey, those who also equally takes care of the LPC global executive members. Mr. Umesh Pratap Singh, he will be also as our the second panelist, and the third panelist, the Preeti Rahul Chitali, she will be also here. Equally, she is also take part of the global, but also the LPC women leadership as executive member. So not much going deep about it. We will be straight away coming on to today's topic, that is the GCC. So near it so far for this, I will hand over this session to Preeti madam. Over to you. You can just get about the briefing of today's topic.
Thanks, Raman. Thanks for that wonderful introduction about LPC. And it's been quite a learning and insightful journey for all of us. As you said, today's theme is GCC, so near yet so far. So what do we want to say today? We want to say that though GCC is a market so close to India, but in terms of the Indian pharma companies, it's still very, very far in terms of its operation. So what is the idea behind today? So we want our eminent speakers today to help us to get the answers for the pharma companies in India, to help explore how we can reach more and more markets in GCC. GCC basically includes Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE. GCC is significant because it's an emerging market and globally one of the significant markets at the moment. So along with myself and my other panelists, Mr. Praveen and Mr. Umesh, we will invite our speakers one by one to help us share the knowledge on regulatory, marketing, and the job opportunities in this market. Something about myself, if I have to speak, I'm based out of Cambodia as a general manager nutraceutical with V Healthcare Group, and having an experience of 19 years in pharmaceutical and nutraceutical in India as well as across SAARC countries. Today we have Mr. Firaz. He's a seasoned pharma executive, a pharmacist from Jordan, experienced in European, Middle East, African markets, currently heading the marketing and business development function at Aspen in MENA countries. Prior to Aspen, Firaz was holding a leading position at Hikma Pharmaceuticals in Europe and MENA countries. Firaz is also a part of the advisory board of CPHI, Middle East and Africa. Firaz has recently completed an Oxford Executive Leadership Program from Said Business School, University of Oxford. He is very passionate about pharma, healthcare, global networking, creating new ventures and business opportunities. So today Firaz would be speaking on market and overview and market in GCC. Before that, let's have Praveen speak about Mr. Syed a little bit and a brief introduction about himself. Yes, over to you, Praveen.
Thank you, Ms. Priti. And already you have elaborated about today's topic, so I'm not going into that. Uh, if I'll speak about me, I'm Praveen Pandey. I'm offering my 15 years experience in pharmaceutical market. I have worked in domestic, I mean to say India, as well as in international market. I was based in East Africa, West Africa, as well as South Africa. At present, I am holding Deputy General Manager post for one export house, that is Brackway Pharmaceutical Limited in New Delhi, that is capital of India. I'm looking after Asian, African, Latin American market and CIS. Middle East as so near yet so far. I'm looking after to work on that. And today we have one well-known face from Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is Mr. Saad Al Otabi. So if I'll introduce, it's really my pleasure and honor to introduce Mr. Saad. He is having almost 20 years experience in pharmaceutical market, FMCG, as well as food industry. By education, he has done diploma in pharmacy as well as bachelor's in pharmacy. At present, he is a senior consultant for regulatory for one company. Before that, he has worked with many multinational companies like Pfizer, Gilead, Nestle, and Ara Food. Mr. Saad is also known to make a module for Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, especially involvement of regulatory part with Thomson Reuters. So welcome, Mr. Saad, and it's happy that many people are going to listen you from today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I'll hand over this session to next panel, Mr. Umesh, please. Sir, आप mute हैं.
Thank you, Praveen, and good morning to all speakers and fellow panelists, and good morning to all our viewers across the Facebook and YouTube, LPC-77. I'm Umesh Pratap Singh. Basically, I'm associated with the pharma industry since last 25 years. In the domestic market as well as in international market, my experience is almost same. I work with Cipla in domestic market, and in international market, I work with the High Glance Laboratories for a few years, and then I have business relations with them. And now I'm working as independent entrepreneur into entire Latin American market, and I'm exploring Canadian and US market as well. And today we are going to discuss GCC, so near so far, a wonderful topic and a very interesting market, since it is very near to us and potential market with the population of almost 55 million cumulative to all the across the GCC countries. And with the business potential, the population is almost 40% of the Indian population. But once we see the business opportunities, it is almost 80% of the Indian pharmaceutical business. So in this segment, we have a lot of opportunities, job opportunities, and business opportunities that Mr. Kumar S is going to present, our eminent speaker. He is going to discuss on job opportunities and business opportunities. Mr. Kumar has got almost 20 years pharma experiences into domain of pharma market, medical, consumer health in MENA, working with companies like Damad Medicals, Atlas Medicals, etc. And he has worked previously with Omega Pharma and Boss Health, Prestige brands, along with others. Currently, he is a part of young startup Taras MBD as a regional marketing and business development company helping healthcare companies to have a foothold in the region. He is a dynamic marketing management professional, and he is very energetic to welcome the companies into the region. So we are going to listen more about job opportunities and business development into region with Mr. Kumar. Welcome to Mr. Kumar in our session, today's discussion. Moreover, apart from this, the market potential, what we see as external person sitting far away from GCC market, how the market is, the GCC market, with the potential of as a perception, what I feel with about the market, it is a semi-regulated market that accepts branded medicines. Mostly patented medicines are more imported across the GCC region from Europe, and American manufacturers are more accepted as compared to others. And if we see the Asians, Japanese and Chinese medicines are little generics are accepted, but as far as Indian companies, we are very few, and our presence is less. Though market has got almost 80% imported and 20% local. Local manufacturings are less, so our potential is high. We see as paying capacity is very much because of high income zone. So it is quite interesting, and we see more and more business opportunities and more job opportunities in that market. We will listen more to our speakers regarding that. With this, I hand over to Ms. Preeti for further discussion, and let's listen something new from our speakers, what they think. Ms. Preeti, hand over to you.
Thanks, Umesh. As Umesh already mentioned to us that it's a semi-regulated market, and with a lot of imports being happening in this region, yet the Indian companies are less penetrated or marketing less products here. This is the main answer. This is the main question, or this is the main theme for today's session, and what we will try to help the Indian manufacturers to understand or find answers from our speakers today. So, as a general understanding about the regulatory part of GCC, what do we know? We all know that the product registration in the rest of the world is a very challenging task, and because of the mere reason that it is not harmonized. GCC is a semi-regulated market. It is somewhat harmonized as the regulatory organization is common for this region. So all the 6 countries have together formed a committee for drug registration back in May 1999. This was after the resolution which was passed at the 45th conference in Geneva in May 1998. The lead role in forming this organization was played by the officers of the health minister in the Riyadh Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. This committee is basically having 2 committee members of each of the countries, and the chairman position, the chairmanship, is held by one of the member states on their planning, or alternately, basically they have some system inside it. And the committee generally meets 12 times a year, wherein there is 6 conference calls and the technician meets, which helps the countries for the registration files. Why was this organization formed? What was the idea behind this? So the aim is to ensure the quality, effectiveness, the safety of the medical products. So when we talk about medical products, this includes the human medicines, it includes medical devices, and also the veterinary medicines. So this is the whole working of GCC organization, the health committee, or whatever we can say, the registration health committee. This topic in detail will be discussed with Mr. Said, where I invite Mr. Umesh to speak a little about the market before we hand over to Praveen to take it forward from there.
Thank you, Ms. Preeti. Regarding the market concern, we are looking for our perception, general perception, what we discussed. This market is more dynamic, and GCC has a group of 6 countries. The major chunk of business is with the UAE and Saudi Arabia, and some part goes with the Qatar and other countries like this Kuwait and Bahrain. They have very small segment, and the branded generic, what we see in the market, they are dominating. But with the need of price cut reduction into price and more demand of the medicine, more and more generics are preferred. And with the expiration of the patented drugs, it is considered that more and more generics will enter. But with the stringent regulatory norms and price factors, that affect a lot to Indian companies, because there are regulations that doesn't support Indian companies because of the price references and the cost occurred into the registration and marketing expenditures. So Indian companies, we are not into that much dynamic, or some authority supports are required to enter into the market because of the some DPCO norms into India. The major chunk of generic products that we sell into India, they are price controlled. And once we enter into GCC, that price doesn't allow us to sell the product into the market. And with the cost that occurs into marketing and distributions, that is again controlled by the local authorities into certain part of the GCC. So that expenditure we doesn't meet. So that is our perception from outside. And once we look into the business, that is prescription-based market, prescriptions are honored, and the distribution system, retail system, and the pharmacy chains, they are quite different as compared to Indian domestic markets. But we seek that the some alternatives, how we are going to enter into alliance, or we are going to how we can enter into the market with the support of local companies by holding joint ventures, or by going to open our offices over there, or by going to put manufacturing units. As government authorities, they are supporting local manufacturing to increase support for the local generic products. Those are essential medicines. So this is some new development that market is seeking, and research and development is increased because the government focus is diversified from oil and natural gases to health and education. That has led more opportunities for research and development into local zones. So more and more opportunities are going to emerge into the GCC that will help us being a dynamic pharmaceutical industry in India. So this is all about what we understand from outside, but we would like to listen more from our speakers, the actual situation, what exists over there. So with this, I hand over to Ms. Preeti for again to start with the session.
It's okay. I'm taking up from here.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Praveen is going to take. Sorry.
Thank you. It was very nice, and introduction is also done. Everybody is learning, and they have something. They are willing to get chance to utilize their learning. So most of the people, viewers who are going to listen, the local expertise from GCC market, they have two views. Like, they should know something new. Second, what is opportunity for them? So this is always hot cake topic for any country, especially the people who are in sales and marketing. The more different type of location always add some advantage in their curriculum vitae, in their resume. Like, one person has worked in South Africa in CIS market. So slowly, gradually, as you know, we are going to talk about some price control. So on that CV, the prices goes up for that salesman. So mostly, of course, people are looking to know about job opportunity, business opportunity. What is our perception? Since teen age, when we were, adolescent age, I should say, we have gone through many movies, and some people who were worked in, okay, that time mostly they used to say either Saudi or Dubai or Qatar. Uh, Natural gas, chemical engineers, and hotel industry. These people has worked more and more in GCC market. If we will find Dubai International Airport, we will find many people from India. They are working over there. But what about pharma companies? How they hiring? Are they hiring expats from different locations? So on this, we have almost zero knowledge. For business model, yes, some information which is how wrong and how it is right. If you have to start own business, then you have to operate at least one office in GCC, either from Dubai or from Saudi or from some other part of GCC market. So these things, many left and right confusions are there, which we are going to get clear in next an hour. And first of everything, we are going to talk about regulatory, which is important to initiate any business. Like what is terms and condition to initiate in that geographical region. So I would like to invite a prominent speaker, Mr. Saad, who is going to speak on regulatory things of GCC. So welcome, Mr. Saad. It's hand over to you.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Praveen. I'm pleased to be with you all. And definitely, I would love welcome that to talk about the regulatory environment here in Saudi and GCC as well. Definitely, the pharmaceutical regulatory environment in Saudi and GCC as well is being now well regulated. When it comes to pharma sector in particular, we have a well-established regulatory or regulations on ground. We are mostly following the international practices and guidelines, and the regulatory environment is emerging much, evolving much here in Saudi and GCC as well, with the adoption, of course, of the international EU and ICH guidelines has been implemented quite a long time ago. Even when it comes to format, and we are using the registration particulars has been transitioned from paper format to NIS to CTD to the current ECTD. The format itself, I mean that the system's registration, drug registration system is being now more electronic. Before it was, we were using an old-fashioned way, but now a majority are using a very advanced electronic systems. The regulatory environment, as I told you, that recently there is huge pressure on pricing, especially in UAE and Saudi. They are they are putting more and more controls when it comes to pricing. There is a list of reference 20 countries, including, of course, Jordan and Lebanon. So this will play another role when it comes to this. So you have to take care of even of your marketed or your targeted market. Sometimes the pricing there may affect also the whole game. I mean that when it comes to pricing. But as for Indian companies, I knew that the major or the biggest challenge is the price constraints, especially the price control at the country of origin in India. So they're suffering a lot. They're facing a big challenge when it comes to pricing here because of the low price at the country of origin, which is a big challenge and problem, I would say. So this is in brief when I'm talking about the regulatory environment. This is my intro, regarding the market. The market is really potential, a big market. Local represents, I think we have almost 27 or maybe, or approximately 27 big local manufacturers, which represent almost 18 to 20% out of market. The rest is imported. The country before, it was source country oriented, but nowadays, frankly speaking, it's not there anymore. So because the country being now price conscious, expenditure they want to spend efficiently in a very efficient way, there is a huge pressure and support to local content when it comes to localization, even at the jobs. When you said Praveen, we were talking about jobs. In Saudi, there is also now they released the new regulations. Maybe last year or a couple of years ago, they're setting a certain target for locals when it comes to medical reps jobs. So now by law, there is a certain percentage it must be fulfilled by locals. They will reach, I think, 100% level in a certain time. This is what the government aimed. But in the rest of GCC, I don't think so. No, this will be copied. But in Saudi, there is a huge pressure when it comes to hiring or employing locals or nationals in particular. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, we have some questions online which people
Yeah,
would
please.
like to know. Which type of certification is required to get product register as well as company register in GCC, and if they need the study or stability, then which zone they consider?
Sorry, for the certification, of course. I mean that as per the guidelines, there is a published guidelines which is available online. However, I mean that for site registration or plant registration, definitely, I mean that GMB. This is what we call a GMB manufacturers registration. In Saudi or in the central registration as well. We have also a central registration. We have peripheral registration. So, for example, if you wanna register your site, I'm sure as per GMB, which we call it CGMB. C stands for current, which is the current GMB practices. So the site or the company or manufacturers must, I mean, that adopt the up to date, what they call the best practice when it comes to good manufacturing. The company needs for site to provide site master file, latest inspection reports from even from the international, from local and international agencies. You need to provide the list of your marketed product, and you need to provide a list also of the what they call it, the recent inspections has been done from even from local or international agencies. This is for the site. But as for the products, definitely it's following basically an ACTD format, which is 5 modules. So for new human drug or generics, all 5 modules, all sections are required. Module 1, of course, for the administrative information, which including covering letter, artwork, and the administrative information, and the rest. I'm sure that you are familiar with the ACTD. It's basically ACTD format. So this is when it comes to the certification. Sorry, Praveen, what was the last part of your question?
It was June study, when we are submitting dossier, then they in each dossier some zone study stability B study is required. Zone 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, like that. So any particular zone study or stability data required for So does
Yeah,
this submission?
of course. There is a guidance, by the way, in for example, here the Saudi Food and Drug Authority, they have a guidance document when it comes to stability data. So definitely, yes, there is a certain stability is very important, and they would especially if the farmers are having vitamins, okay, and vitamins in particular, or the rest. But stability, but as for stability, yes, there is a guidelines. There is a certain requirements when it comes to stability. But it is also available, by the way, that guide. Anybody can have a look into it. So there is a proper guidance, when it comes to stability. Yes.
Okay. Okay. One more gentleman is willing to know, like most of companies, are they working under third party manufacturer or CMO model or CDMO model? So, if one Indian company is there, they have operations in Canada, they have operations in Australia, but it's as a third party. Marketing authorization holder is local importer of Australian market. So in that situation, is this Indian manufacturer can use the same reference to get registered the same product in GCC?
No, I think in this case I've been that because they are always because that the GMB or the site inspection visit will be required. So the authority will consider the plant. I mean that as the country of origin. So I believe in this case, no, I think it will not work if the market authorization holder is just importer only. So definitely, I mean that when it comes to registration and site registration, product registration, no, they will stick to, they will apply the normal procedures. Yeah. Even sometimes if you don't have, for example, in Saudi, if you don't have presence, and GCC, if you don't have presence, and if you don't have a distributor as well, you can employ a pharmaceutical consultant, regulatory consultant, approved or approved consultant from Saudi Food and Drug Authority, which we call a third party, and he can do a registration for you on behalf of manufacturer. So, but as for your case, no, I think it's gonna be it will not work and to be used as a reference. For example, if the marketing authorization is just importer only. Yeah.
Okay.
So
On
one more
behalf
question.
of viewers,
One more question from my side, Praveen.
yes, please.
Who will be the registration owner? The manufacturer or the local company in
No,
GCC?
the registration owner, sorry, again, the registration owner, the marketing authorization holder, you'll be the registration owner.
Okay, okay.
The marketing
And
authorization holder.
okay.
So on behalf of viewers, I got some questions uh, here. If the plant is approved in Dubai, so the same reference could be used for Saudi, Oman, Qatar, Bahrain, or if the plant is registered in Saudi, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, then the reference could be utilized to register product in Dubai and other four markets.
Well, it is a controversial issue. Sometimes, yeah. Frankly speaking, as I told you that we have two routes for registration. There is one we call it central, which is belong to the GCC office, the General Secretary of Council of Gulf Cooperation Council based in Riyadh. Once you do a central registration, for example, for your plant, then it's gonna be considered centrally registered. So all the rest of GCC will consider it registered. You got my point? But if it is registered peripherally in one country, for example, in Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and so on, Well, it depends. It happens, and I have seen it in practical before. There was a site has been registered in UAE, and then when we applied to register it centrally, they were asking for inspection again, to do a site inspection visit and stuff like that. So practically, it should be okay. And he says, if it is has been recently inspected by and registered in one country, I believe this will help a lot, to avoid the double inspection. But it happens sometimes. It's not guaranteed. It might be requested at any time.
Great.
Yeah.
One more question.
Yes.
Sorry, Praveen, one more question from audience side. The finished formulation product for the registration, is there any pharmacopoeia required, or this can be in-house manufactured product also considered?
No, there are international pharmacopoeias. Will always the reference.
Like in India, we have Indian pharmacopoeia. Is that
And
considered?
I think it should be okay. It should be okay. Yeah. It should be okay, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Yes.
you.
So one gentleman has initiated his own export, and he has one query, which he put remarks, like, Indians are always better in negotiation, in bargaining. So he has a query, like, uh, Saudi, UAE are really big business hub. At least many things, they don't put even maximum taxes or anything. They are very economically sound. So why there is too much price control for pharmaceutical product, which is not for other products?
Yeah, frankly speaking, because see, if you have a look to the medical services, it is offered free here by government. So mostly the one who's carried out a cost or expenditures is government. So it's became a big burden on them. So that's why they impose tight price control when it comes to pricing, because by the end of the day they're offering treatment for free, and they're gonna pay a hell of money. So this is simply the reason. I knew that for pharmaceutical in UAE and Saudi, it is duty free. Even there is no duty on imported, pharmaceuticals. However, at the same time, no, definitely nowadays in Saudi, for example, as a reference country, there is a specialized authorities now. One for local, which what we call it local content and procurement authority. There is another authority which is for the what they call it for the efficient expenditures, managing an efficient expenditures for government as well. So now they're doing the pharmacoeconomics, they're doing the cost benefit analysis. So now we have the government is working hard on this. They want to drag it down, in any way. Yeah.
Thank you. I would like to just offer some gratitude the people who is online and they had asked to accept by Mr. Saad, Mr. Nasiruddin Chisti, Mr. Arun Kumar from India, the gentleman Salesh is from Canada, Rakesh is from Peru, Mr. Wafa Bakri, and Mr. ICS. They have just offered their gratitude and they said it's very nice session. Thank you so much. So at present, Mr. Saad has discussed about regulatory parts and some uh, plant inspection related things. The thing which we have noticed about the hard copy to CTD and ECTD, which is going to be happen everywhere, I hope. Even in African countries, they have initiated with CTD at least. ECTD is still par for them. The price control is, yes, highly sensitive in GCC market. That is also the part. And plant inspection is mandatory. A reference product registration is the option, but it depends with multiple situations. So thank you, Mr. Saad. We love to hear you. And from here, I would like to hand over session to Ms. Priti for marketing and business related things. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Praveen. Pleased to be with all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Praveen. We'll go ahead with understanding the market more in detail with Mr. Firaz. And Mr. Firaz will start over with us with giving us a general market overview. Over to you, Mr. Firaz.
Thank you, Preeta. Thanks to all our fellow panelists and speakers for the day. So good morning and good day to all our viewers. It's my pleasure definitely to be part of the LPC discussion of today. As a general disclaimer, I'll be presenting my personal views and not any of a particular organization. And mainly the data provided is based on multiple references and experiences. To start the talk, basically, just to give an overview about what GCC actually stands for. So in general, the word GCC is basically the Gulf Cooperation Council. It's a political and economic union of Arab states bordering the Gulf. This was established in 1981, and the 6 members are the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, Kuwait, and Bahrain. The actual geography is around 2.6 million square meters. And as it relates to the title, it's actually around 2,000 kilometers away from India. The population today of the GCC region is more around 60 million people. More than 50% of this population actually is living in the KSA. 40% actually of the general population of GCC is expats. And it's interesting to understand that actually around 25% of the expat population are actually from Indian origins, generating around 55 billion actually US dollars on an annual basis. Now the population of the GCC counts for around 0.8% on a worldwide level. Basically, GCC regimens across the 6 countries are monarchies, which stabilizes also the political situation across this region. The local language and official language is Arabic, and the official religion is Islam. On top of that, English is the main business language, and obviously the freedom of personal worship is granted to all the population living in GCC. When we talk more about the economy of the GCC, and this is very interesting to understand and in perspective to the global numbers. So today, the GDP of GCC region is around 1.6 billion US dollar, and it accounts to around 1.9% of the world's GDP. So on average capita, this will amount to around 26,000 US dollars. Now, obviously, as most of the world has suffered during 2020, there was a decline in that end. However, the anticipated forecast for 2021 is basically that the growth rate will amount to around 2.2% end of the 21. Now, it's quite interesting to understand that GCC actually has one of the highest proven reserves of both oil and natural gas worldwide. When it comes to currencies, today, basically, most of the GCC currencies are pegged to the dollar, the US dollar, except the Kuwaiti dinar, which is basically pegged to the currency basket, which is particular for Kuwait. As of today, around 50% of the general state's revenues comes from oil and gas. However, GCC has gone a lot of profound transformation and is now home to some of the fastest growing economies in the world. Today, governments of the GCC countries are undergoing successful efforts to diversify their economies away from the dependence on the hydrocarbon industries. This includes sectors like finance, logistics, aviation, communication, healthcare, and tourism. And the liberal climates are actually towards foreign cooperation, investment, and modernization. which resulted in extensive diplomatic and commercial relations with other countries. Moving towards the actual pharmaceutical environment, and what does that represent for the GCC market, and how we can link this into the attractiveness actually for foreign investors, specifically from India. The healthcare expenditure as a total value in 2020 amounted to around $150 billion. So this is on average around $2,900 per capita. The actual pharmaceutical market, however, is around 12 billion in 2020, and the growth anticipated CAGR is to reach actually around 20 billion in 2025. The split actually in this pharmaceutical market is around 4 billion of this 12 billion is generics, while the rest is actually branded and new chemical entities. Now today, KSA actually forms 50% of this pharmaceutical market. Within KSA is around 7.5 billion US dollar market. 75% actually of this market is imported, while there is around 20 to 25% local production. Second market would be UAE in terms of size. So UAE amounts to around 3.7 billion US dollar, while 90% of this value comes from imported products and only 10% is from local production. However, it's quite interesting to note that 60% actually of the pharmaceutical market is generics versus brands. Moving next actually to the other markets, although smaller in size, but we see a lot of potential. Kuwait, for example, is around 1.6 billion. However, it's purely dominated by imported products and only 1% actually is locally manufactured. Then Qatar is around 0.62 billion. And then you have Oman around 0.46 billion, Bahrain around 0.26 billion US dollars. However, most of these markets, not more than 2 to 3% are imported, while the remaining value of the pharmaceutical market comes basically from imported products. Mostly importation at this stage comes from European markets, and then US dominates a part of this importation, and the rest is actually then across the region, which opens obviously a very interesting potential for more and more investors and pharmaceutical companies to target the penetration of GCC, given the potential of the market and the growing population and size. So that's from my end, basically just a high-level overview of GCC. Back to you, Prita, if you have any questions from yourself or from the audience.
Yes, thanks Firas for that. We would like to understand what are the main drivers for this market that you can just brief on that for us.
Sure. So basically, as I mentioned, like given the current political stability of this region, and saying this in comparison to other countries across Middle East and North Africa, which is basically the Arab region. So today, in the past couple of years, we have seen a lot of uprising in other markets with, thanks God, with the leadership, I would say, wisdom in this region. The stability has been an important element to basically encourage market growth and ensure the stability of the population, and also encourage investors in that sense. Now, the oil prices, obviously, having the economy dependent in a high level on oil is always a parameter to look into. As we are seeing oil prices being stabilized, this will actually support the economic viability and recovery. All this is actually being very close to the decision makers in a sense that the transformation programs that we are seeing being announced, for example, in KSA, like the KSA Vision 2030, the Abu Dhabi Economic Vision, and Dubai Industrial Vision 2030, are basically aligning framework, legislative framework, and various governmental policies to introduce more investor-friendly regulations and ensure basically localization of manufacturing and increase the potential and opportunities to invest in the markets. This all capped actually with the market dynamics in this region, given a growing population, the urbanization and the prevalence of the chronic diseases. And basically we see diabetes, for example, obesity and cancer as one of the growing disease areas, which would need a lot of investment and care in healthcare to ensure that these are controlled and patients are managed appropriately. Now, the spending basically per person in GCC is increasingly high, and this is considered as one of the high regions across the world where basically the healthcare spent is considered, and hence an interesting driver basically for this particular sector.
So when we are talking about the foreign investments coming inside there, the government is promoting investments for pharmaceutical or diversifying into that segment. What is the general perception of the people there regarding the local products or the imported products or generic against the branded? How do you see that?
Now, to be honest, in the past, and I here talk also from a personal experience. I was born myself in Abu Dhabi, and basically, I mean, this part of the world was always used to branded products in general, and this is why we see till today the general perception of the population is basically that the country can afford basically the branded products, and hence most of the population is basically insured. And hence they would demand, in a sense, to get the best of the best. Having said that, now with what's happening globally, the global trends, and as Mr. Saad was also alluding to, the pressure that's being forced from the healthcare providers, given the different dynamics in the economies, the oil prices, COVID, for example, all of these trends have shaped a clear direction within health authorities, and which cascaded eventually to the general population and patients and the healthcare providers that basically approve generics in the market are as good as the branded products, and they come with basically lower costs. So even if you are insured, you would have to actually go for these branded products. So we're seeing this more of a trend actually. UAE was one of the leading probably markets, especially in Abu Dhabi, where even prescriptions are being actually genericized. So in a sense, the HCP or the healthcare provider wouldn't have the ability to write a brand. He would just write the generic name, and then it's up to the pharmacy actually to dispense the appropriate medicine. And this basically then ended up to the point where even the patients themselves are now basically in a situation where, okay, they used to prefer the brands, but now they're in a position where it's common to actually be prescribed the generic, and the generic might be from different countries. It might be a local generic, it might be a European generic. Yeah. And we're seeing, to be honest, very recently, Indian generics being actually in the market, which is quite an interesting shift, I would say, and trend, also in the perception in that sense. And it all, in a sense, comes to the branding and what efforts pharma would bring behind the product to make sure that eventually it reaches in the best manner from a quality point of view, right. Even from a packaging point of view, because the eye sees first, and even as a consumer, although you're prescribed a product, if we're talking about prescription product, but looking at the package itself would give you a general insight of the quality of the product as a normal individual, a normal patient. So that having said that, this basically encourages more and more pharma companies to actually start looking into that, given the perceptions has definitely changed. Tenders, for example, it's now becoming very common, even in the big tenders in KSA, that Indian generics are getting a decent market share. And given the economic situation now, the idea of having only one product in a tender is no longer favorable. So a lot of tender bodies are now favoring a split awards, where you would see more than one product coming from different companies to ensure the continuous supply end of the day. And this gives room, obviously, to a lot of generic players to actually, offer their products in the market.
That's a very interesting thing that encourages most of the pharma manufacturers to participate, and then it ensures quality and the pricing both at the same time. That's an interesting move. So going ahead, suppose there's an Indian manufacturer based in India, the pharmaceutical company, and wants to come to the GCC. So what kind of a business opportunity or the partnership approach that would be good for that company to come there?
Now, to be honest, Peter, there's no one answer fits all situations, and then probably as some of the panelists and speakers alluded earlier, that basically there is a general understanding of the restrictions, what is actually preventing Indian manufacturers from penetrating GCC as they would have already penetrated Europe, for example, and the US. Although the general perception might be that, okay, the other authorities are more stringent. Now, the main concept, as already mentioned, was the price. Price, given the fact that, okay, in the GCC markets, you would reference the price of the country of origin. So given the general understanding that the price in India would be lower based on the cost of actually manufacturing there and the different variables related to the pricing. So this would for pharma companies be a barrier, again, in a general understanding. However, if you dig further into this, to be honest, it might not be a barrier. It might be an opportunity, because if you are able to provide life-saving medication, and here is the stressful, you have to stress on this fact, because today, coming in 2021, 22 and offering a commodity product, a generic antibiotic or painkiller, wouldn't be very interesting to anyone, because already there are local players who have been here for some time. They've already have their plants fully installed and producing and satisfying the need of the market. So the idea here, which would really be appealing, is basically for Indian companies to look at new chemical entities, to look at unmet needs in the market, to look at life-saving products. If we are talking about hospital items, oncology products, basically even sophisticated products, which we know that the Indian manufacturers have the capabilities and are already basically manufacturing this for domestic and international markets. So here it becomes an attractive point for the pharma world when it comes to regulators or when it comes to players in the region. Now, localization is the game. So today everyone's really focusing in localization. If you're Indian, European, or other manufacturer globally that you want to go into the GCC markets, okay, it might not be as strict as other markets in the region. However, we are seeing an interesting shift towards localization, incentives being given, encouragement of private-public partnerships, and most importantly, you have an option of 100% foreign investment, which I believe is quite appealing for foreign companies. There is a lot of free zones, investment parks, leasing land options, which would definitely encourage the foreign companies, on top of obviously the exemption of taxes. However, you have to come in as a serious partner. If you think that, okay, I would just assign a distributor that would promote my products, he would, but this wouldn't be given any priority, and you'll always be dragging as this limited opportunistic sales. However, if Indian pharma companies have a serious plan, which we have seen a couple of them are willing to actually invest more, meaning technical transfer, moving the products to be manufactured locally, establishing regional offices, partnering with local regional players who would actually then take the front end. So you're not necessarily required to have the full investment in terms of teams, etc., which might be exhausting initially, but ideally, if you're having the will to actually invest as you would in an emerging, growing market of big potential, then definitely you will be rewarded as such, and it will definitely work in getting the products eventually in the market with a cost-effective treatment, but which still is profitable for the manufacturer, and it would be in a sense a win-win situation.
I think we have covered the hurdles and challenges also inside it, which I had put it as a separate question. But apparently, even the future hopes, I think we have already, you have spoken about that also in your answer. But if you really want to elaborate a little more on the future hopes in GCC, you can do. But I think most of it you covered in your first answer.
Sure. So to be honest, exactly, probably because it's quite interlinked in a sense.
Yes.
Today, to understand what to do as opportunity, you just need to understand the hurdles, and the hurdles are quite general in a sense. It's not if you always position that why I being perceived differently. Indian manufacturers are not perceived differently with the authorities. They are perceived, in all honesty, in fairness with other manufacturers on a global level. But the idea is basically just to understand the local requirements in a better sense. Today, one of the hurdles is basically the reliance also on the governments to actually drive the growth of this sector. However, when there is more encouragement of the private partnerships, and here comes the idea of when you actually partner with the private companies, this actually reduces the hurdles. You get better understanding of how the market operates. Now, one of the hurdles probably, which also links to the price, is basically, although there's a price pressure, but then the pricing still in the GCC is considered a high price compared to other markets. And this also links to the high operating costs and manufacturing costs that are in this region. And it's all linked to each other. You're getting higher price, but then the authorities are basically ensuring that okay, you get this higher price, you have to manufacture locally, which would cost you higher, but then this will also offer you and the team operating in these markets a different lifestyle. So it's more of a full package and offering that's being sent out, and the message being sent out to the markets. Now, one of the hurdles, to be honest, we see in GCC specifically is sometimes the volumes. Some of the lower or smaller GCC markets are sometimes matched to the bigger countries and less prioritized, because today multinationals, global players would look at, okay, might be interested in big markets. However, I cannot supply the smaller markets, and this becomes unfortunate. And that's why, generally speaking, the harmonization, the reference, also in terms of the packaging, would sometimes support, getting your product across to the different regions, other than, keeping it only limited to one or two markets. Back to your question on the future hopes. So this is actually one of the hopes end of the day, because, I've heard it personally from a couple of industry leaders and even regulators that basically we would like to encourage the manufacturers to bring in the technology. This is what the region is needing to. This is what they are striving to. They are fed up of Me Too generics that are trying to still register in the market. So this is the hope, actually, getting more consolidation of businesses, trying to focus on biotech sites, products, focusing on unmet needs, and accordingly trying to, as a region, being less dependent, obviously, on oil, and this is part of the strategy of the region, which eventually would lead to more investment coming into this part of the world.
Correct. Thanks. Praveen, are there any questions on the Facebook for Mr. Firaz?
Yes, first few appreciation from many people. I would like to share some names. Dr. Shera from Egypt. One person is with the same surname, it's Lat Al Nagolsi. One question also from Mr. Nasiruddin Chisti. He is willing to know, does third party manufacturing or marketing Indian company, do they have any scope in Middle East? Like manufacturer is someone else, and they are going to outsource that product, and they wish to register by their own name.
So today, basically, given the regulations in the GCC market, you have to follow the rules, basically. So you have to get the site registered. You have to then provide also the documentation to show that you are the MA holder of the product. So today, for example, in Europe, we have the model of offices being MA holdings and not actually manufacturing sites. This is quite not a preferred probably option, I would say, in GCC. They would like to see you actually registering the product, marketing the product, having already the experience in your country of origin before actually bringing it into the region. And that's why, having the documentation in place, having the site registered, having the CPPs with the marketing authorization holder being the actual entity responsible to have the product in the market would always be an encouraging route for the authorities to treat it in all fairness.
Thank you so much. There's only so many more questions and appreciations are there, but hope we should not go with short of time.
Yeah.
So I'll just hand over to Preeti for further.
Yeah. So thanks, Mr. Faraz. That was a very insightful session. I'll just sum up your communication in a brief note. The pharmaceutical market in GCC is approximately 12 billion USD, and out of which 4 billion USD is generics. The balance is all branded products. There is a very good thing that's happening in GCC. There's a diversification, removing its dependency in oil and gas, and also a very interesting thing for the pharmaceutical industry that there is an 100% FDI with a local partner in GCC. So this is something which the Indian pharmaceutical manufacturers can look up to. Also, very important, there is a movement, or we see a trend changing from prescription of branded products to generics, and also generics becoming a part of the tender, the Indian generics becoming a part of the tender listings, and also there is a split in the tenders. Apart from this, as Mr. Faraz mentioned, the Indian pharmaceutical industry or the manufacturers should focus on the unmet needs, niche products or the life-saving products. This is an opportunity, and just not look at the barrier, which is the price and the country of origin. So that's in brief what Mr. Faraz mentioned. Thank you so much, Faraz. Over to you, Umesh.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Preeti, and thank you, Mr. Firas, for your nice presentation. And so far, we have learned about the regulatory requirements and market potential. And we came to know there is a lot of opportunities, and government is supporting local manufacturers more and more. Business is going to grow. So definitely there will be need of more professionals, and more business opportunities will develop. So we have another speaker, Mr. Kumar. He is going to give us more insight regarding the professionals, what are the opportunities from India or outside Dubai, who are willing to go over there and settle their careers, and what are the business opportunities. Over to you, Mr. Kumar. Please unmute. Mr. Kumar, you are mute. Yeah.
Good morning to you all. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to become part of this great platform, knowledge sharing. I'm given an opportunity to talk based on the opportunities for the professionals and a bit about the business opportunities which are there in GCC. But I'll be more specific with respect to UAE, because this is the place where I'm based at and having a better understanding. So you can take this as a sample which can be taken related to the other GCC market as well. So as Praveen was mentioning, like we see only in movies, like GCC is one country, or the country that we would like to go, either to Saudi Arabia or Dubai, or as per se Qatar. Something similar happened for me in 2004, and I am here in Dubai at that time. This is how I also started as a professional over here. So what is in store for the opportunity for the professionals who are coming here? And what I could say is, like, this is a higher income package. What attracts the professional to come over here? One is the higher income package, which is offered by this. The lifestyle and security, which is offered by the countries over here. And when you come over here, there is a diverse opportunities and a broader avenue to grow your career. And as per se, in UAE is considered as a home away from home for the Indian people, because as Mr. Firaz was mentioning, like 27% of the population in UAE is Indians. So for us, it seems like we are just in another home. That's it. So now I'm going to talk about like what is the opportunity for a professional who basically have done an education with pharmaceuticals over here. Broadly, I could classify that into four areas where they can get an opportunity. One will be the retail sector, the other will be the pharmaceutical sales and marketing, and the next one will be pharma and medical regulatory. The other part will be like they can get into the production and related jobs. So when you get into the pharmaceutical retail, which is one of the most interesting sector over here, because you could see in UAE there is more than 2,000 pharmacies and almost like 18 manufacturing units. This is the market size with respect to the pharma environment is concerned. So for a pharmacy graduate who is coming over here, he can get into a retail or a medical store as a licensed pharmacist. For that, what he requires is a B.Pharm graduation or an M.Pharm graduation, then a 2 year of experience over there in the country where they have to write the exam with the authorities over here. There are 3 authorities in UAE, for example, which is based geographically. One is in Abu Dhabi, which is called Health Authority of Abu Dhabi, and the second one is Dubai Health Authority and the MOH. So if a person is writing any of, any of these exams, he is licensed to practice as a pharmacist over here, and he can start off with a pharmacy if they are offering him a job, and then he can activate his license and he can go for working with any of the companies over here. And the next thing which is coming is in the pharmaceutical sales and marketing. This is offered by most of them, because as my earlier speakers have mentioned, 80% of the business across GCC is done by the distribution company or the importation companies. So there is a lot of scope of getting a job as a medical sales professional for any pharmaceutical professional over here. And this could be either in pharma, it could be in medical, or something related with the skincare or cosmetics. I just want to highlight, as Mr. Firaz have mentioned, it is a $3.7 billion industry for pharmaceuticals in UAE. At the same time, it is a $3 billion industry for the cosmetics as well. So this is giving an opportunity for the people to come over here and work in any of the sector. And then the next comes is a very niche field, which may not be so important as far as the Indian professionals are concerned, where there is pharma and medical regulatory area, because this is a strictly regulated markets. Regulatory forms an important part of getting any products into the market. So this offers a great opportunity, and later on a career building, getting into a global level also for any pharma professional over here. So for every company over here which is into pharma importation, if you take like, if it is only pharma or medical, it is a mandatory requirement for any company to have a pharma regulatory professional. And this offers a big scope for professionals who are coming over here. And the next thing is more related with the manufacturing. It could be either in the technology or production side. So these are the main 4 areas where anybody can get a job over here. I'll just mention like some tips when they are coming over here and looking for a job over here. Ideally, they should be coming to this country, preferably in a period from August to March. Why I'm saying this, the timing is very important. Usually, the intake may not be happening during the summer because there will be holidays attached with that and other thing. So the ideal scenario will be to come for a professional will be from August to March over here. They should be present. I mean, like there are multiple ways of looking for a job over here. One is the online, as you all know, getting into the sites of different online platforms. You can register your CVs and stuff like that, which will help you to get some interviews. The other one will be being present in the social media platforms like Facebook or LinkedIn. And then apart from that, referrals plays an important role also over here. What I would suggest is like one don'ts, because usually the recruitment agencies over here normally doesn't charge the aspirants. But in some cases, it so happens like when people come over here because of their situation, these people take them for a ride, or rather they take advantage of the people with some what you can say like scamsters who are utilizing the position of the professionals. So this they have to take care of. But other than that, there is a scope for all the professionals who are coming over here. And what is the future for the professionals who are coming over here? I could say like the country is moving towards becoming one of the most important regional hub for medical tourism, which means like there is a great amount of infrastructure development which is happening. By 2030, it is said like UAE is going to have almost like 2,000 bedded hospital, which is going to come in with a demand for 13,000 healthcare professionals, which means like as an ancillary, there will be pharmacies and other things which is going to be there and offering an opportunity for the professionals to work over here. And then there is a greater focus on the medical tourism. And currently, UAE is placed at 6th globally on the medical tourism over here. So this also gives a better scope for people coming over here. And then the government is attracting more investments in pharma and medical manufacturing. So by 2030, it is being said like at least currently UAE boasts of around 18 manufacturing units. But the plan or the target for the government is to add additional another 20 in the coming 8 years or 9 years time. So this offers a great scope for people who are coming over here as a professional who are related with pharmaceuticals. With that, I just end the note, and if any questions are there, I'll be ready to answer.
Yes, Mr. Kumar, thank you for your nice insightful of the opportunities for the professionals. One question here is that there is job opportunity only for pharma graduates, or diploma holders are also eligible to go there?
No, see, you have an opportunity to work with the diploma holders also, provided because in the retail sector, the demand for them had come down less recently, but more or less they will be taken as an assistant pharmacist or assistant sales. But other than that, normally mandatory requirement for a pharmacy will be to have a graduate in pharma.
Pharmacy graduates are preferred. Okay.
Preferred. It's not preferred, actually. It can be with them only.
Okay. So in the this CRO type of things where you need a regulatory person, or you need something which is more related to documentations and pharmacovigilance, only pharma guys are preferred, or some chemical engineers or our MSc and PhDs are also eligible for that?
No, actually, when you take into the regulatory side, be it medical or be it pharma, the requirement is a B.Pharm graduate or with a higher qualification, and possibly for a regulatory side, like somebody who is an approved pharmacist, he'll be part of the organization and then he'll be doing the regulatory. This is what normally happens. And the qualification required, either they should be a regulatory qualified, then they can support. but as a mandatory requirement within the pharmacy, I mean, like within the organization. For example, I would say like there is a scientific office for a big multinational company. So for them, the requirement is mainly for a pharmacist, meaning like a pharmacovigilance officer over there who they will be registered in the Ministry of Health as also as a pharmacovigilance officer.
And in the production, in the manufacturing unit, production head and plant
That
head,
is
that is different.
that is different, like because in the production side the chemist or the other people can be there, but normally with respect to the product and the team can hold of some pharma graduates as well.
Quality and regulatory, there will be pharma graduates only.
Yes,
Will be
quality,
preferred.
with respect to the quality with the regulatory qualification will be the ideal candidate to go there.
So what are the essential precautions for the person who is approaching for a job into GCC countries or UAE? What precautions they should take?
See, you are coming to a market where it is highly competitive, first of all, and it is one of the, I mean, the region, if you look into it is very much cosmopolitan, because as UAE is having almost like 170 nationalities, this is what they say. So you are coming to an area where you are going to compete with the best of the best in the industry. So you need to be well equipped in terms of your knowledge, in terms of your preparation, with I mean, like to present yourself in the best possible manner when you are going to the interviews, and try to understand the company where you are seeking a job. Usually, you should be aligned with what is their job requirement, whether I fits into that bill. This will make a big difference when you are in front of an interviewer.
And what are the growth perspectives? How fast they can grow?
See, the thing is, like when you are getting into the growth prospect is high, because now when you come into the retail sector, for example, the person will start as a pharmacist and then later on becoming a cluster head and stuff like that, because there is lot of retail chains over here. So the growth happens like just like that in the pharmacy side. But whereas when it comes to the pharmaceutical sales and marketing, you have immense potential to grow into a global leader also, because the thing is like most of the multinationals are working over here, and you will have the opportunity to become part of a multinational organization and to grow your career in that way. So what I would see is like somebody who is ambitious and capable of doing things. In 10 years time, he'll be in a leadership position across the region. This could be the scenario.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar.
Right.
Any question from Facebook and YouTube from me?
Yeah, there are some queries. The first I would like to know from Mr. Saad, like people are willing to know the requirement of BE study. Like it would be a B study referred from any innovator only, or any other from R&D, or it should be studied in Saudi. Which type of B study has been made standard for GCC?
Yeah, as for bioequivalent studies, of course, I mean that it is definitely it is required and it is a part of registration. However, I mean that even if you are applying for drug registration, then and in a certain part you have to provide the standard samples, and it will go for testing as well. But as when it comes to bioequivalent study, it should be carried out by what they call it by recognized bioequivalence center. Any center, I believe that once it is recognized and approved, that should be okay. It should be okay. But bioequivalence is very important and crucial and critical as well to measure what they call it optimal absorption and stuff like that. Equivalence, bioequivalence also in the blood and stuff like that, to prove the efficacy for the product as well. However, I have seen it in the past. Saudi Food and Drug Authority, for example, they are doing what they call it post-market routine check. They are getting samples from a set, especially for generics. So if they find any deviation in bioequivalency, immediately they will suspend the product, and maybe sometimes they will go for recall and stuff like that. So yeah, it is very important, and now it is a major part, integral part of registration, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you so much. One
Yes.
gentleman who has initiated his own business, and he has queried to Mr. Kumar that
Yep.
what is criteria to set office in Dubai?
Okay. I believe like Mr. Firaz was covering that subject earlier, but I'll just throw some light into what I know. That is what I can say. The usual practice, as anybody who is coming from India, is to give it to some distributor and do things. This is the first and foremost thing what anybody will be doing. But when they want to set up an office, for example, they want to set up an office over here as a pharmaceutical company, it is called as a drugstore over here. This is the way that they have to set it up, basically for the commercial purpose or a trading entity, it is called. The mandatory requirement for setting up this office will be if I say, around a 750 square feet space for the office as well as with the warehouse portion. And then you need to register the entity with the Ministry of Health. A mandatory requirement in terms of the employees over there will be a pharmacist who is qualified by the MOH. So once a pharmacist with an active license of the MOH should be there for the proper functioning of the medical store, medical or pharma. In both the cases, it should be the case.
Okay.
So ideally, if they are getting into a pharmaceutical trading business, the first option should be like making a drugstore and then getting into the business of that.
Any investment clarification on this? Like many countries, if you have to open your own business setup, you have to declare some minimum investment. So
Okay,
any such type of criteria?
If you look into that, like the commercial fees which comes with the Ministry of Health is somewhere around like I could say 25,000 dirhams, where it covers what you need to do for a commercial trading license in the economic department, and then what you spend over there in the Ministry of Health. But apart from that, it depends on like the location and the facility that you are taking as a warehouse. So the rent will be an important part. And apart from that, what you pay for the pharmacist also will contribute to that. But in general, what I had seen I'll come
Mr.
to
Kumar,
that.
Sorry, Mr. Kumar, to interrupt. The question was regarding there is a provision in some countries, like in Peru, if you want to open your own company, there is minimum amount to spend, $50,000 you need to spend to open your company that is owned by you. So is there any fixed criteria for that, or only expenditures those are established?
The same in Africa.
No, see, when you say that there will be an annual expenditure which is coming in this way to run a facility over here, that I could say like it is almost like a $40,000 to $50,000 a year.
Those are routine expenditures, no?
Yeah, routine expenditure which comes to form or to keep your, because annually your registration is being renewed annually. So that fees is coming, and the trading license also has to be renewed. So these expenses are recurring, and the recurring expenses is mainly for the facility, which includes the rent and keeping the pharmacist and active pharmacist license over there.
Okay.
But keep in mind, like $40,000 to $50,000 is a bare minimum thing which you require to run a drugstore over here.
That is annual cost. That is not a fixed amount.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Like
you.
let's if we look for some African countries, especially in
Mm.
West Africa, if you
Mm.
have to initiate your business, first you have to declare at least $100,000 or something. Like this much amount I am going to invest, apart from the rent, employee expenses, and
Mm.
you know the place for operation. That is separate. So that was, and we are very clear now on this. Thank you so much. Now,
Let
yes, yes.
let me
I have
summarize with
one question. I have one
Yeah.
question to Mr. Firaz. So, Mr. Firaz, is the marketing activities by these pharmaceutical companies, so with the digital market coming into the picture, the digitalization specifically, has it affected the GCC also during the this pandemic time, and how has it gone about? Has everything moved towards digital, the prescription, or the marketing part of it?
Yeah, to be honest, basically, COVID has impacted the digital aspects of the business. And although a lot of companies were actually planning and had a lot of digital plans in the pipeline, but it was COVID actually which ended up to have this transformation of digitalization. So it started actually with the promotion, as you mentioned, like when it comes to interaction with the healthcare professionals. Now,
Yeah.
usually this was face-to-face, obviously. However, it has moved in a way that there is already now established platforms where you can actually join and communicate with the healthcare professionals through WebEx, webinars, even chat bots, which reduced the need to actually have multiple face-to-face meetings due to the restrictions. However, it also supported basically the promotion when it comes to geography, because instead of having extensive traveling, even if things are opening up now, pharma company has now adapted to this new norm, and even the HCPs are also more basically acquainted with this use of technology. So, for example, when you used to have live meetings of hundreds of people, not only locally but even regionally, now you can easily do this through a webinar, and basically you'll have thousands of people joining. And the cost effectiveness, to be honest, was quite interesting for the pharma industry. So they've realized that they can do much more, increase the spread, but with spending much less than they used to do in the past.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Thanks.
Very special thanks to all speakers. It was very nice interactive session. Some more questions are coming, but we are having shortage of time. So we will share these questions personally on WhatsApp, or you can respond on this link also once after closing session. I would like to ask Mr. Raman to come for closing note. And thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Praveen.
Thank you, Mr.
So,
Shah. Thank you, Mr. Kumar, and thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Firas, for your
Miss.
nice presentation.
Thank you, Pretty.
Thank you all.
Now come to the end of today's live pharma coalition, that is LPC-76 leadership session on the topic of the GCC. So near it to be far. Thank you LPC forum for giving the opportunity for the last part of the word of thanks. Instead of saying thanks to, I will like to say all the best to all the speaker, because the journey started on LPC learning and sharing forum. So very nice, informative, useful, practical day-to-day experience session by our all three speaker. Great, well planned, time bound run show by the all over the LPC 3 panelists. I'd like to say all the best to our all live audience and the viewers, Facebook audience and viewer. Kindly keep liking and following the LPC Facebook page. YouTube audience and viewers, please do subscribe LPC YouTube channel. Last, be LPC master and the mentor program registered member. Text on to is the given number. So for the LPC registration. So thank you so much. Here we will just close the today's discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
you.
Good day to
Thank you. Have a
everyone.
nice day.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
everyone.
Have a
Thank
good day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.